Hi everyone. Today I'd like to speak about spiritual bypassing. It's a very common theme when you decide to commit to the spiritual path, to the healing and spiritual path. At least for me. Because those who are not aware of the bypassing won't talk about it. Or those who are embracing the bypassing as a strategy of avoiding their pains, their wounds, the real shadow work, they won't want to hear about what spiritual bypassing is, and they will actually be inside of it. So why is spiritual bypassing very common in spiritual communities? The healing and spiritual work is about exploring our wounds, exploring our limitations, exploring what's not ours and that we're attached to in a way. It's about recovering parts of self that we have dissociated from because of trauma, because of pain, because of inability to process, to understand, to integrate. And so the healing and spiritual journey is about exploring these parts and reintegrating them inside of our being to be more whole. This is a journey that requires courage and determination. It requires to have a real commitment to healing and awakening, and to be ready to face the uncomfortable and the painful, and to feel the pain, to feel the discomfort, to feel all the emotions that are unpleasant or unstandable. Basically, to put it shortly, healing is about feeling. There's no healing without feeling. In order to reintegrate, heal these parts of self, we need to feel what's inside of them. Why have we dissociated from them? What emotions, what sensations live inside of these parts of self that we have left on the side, dissociated from, repressed, separated from? We need to go there and explore and see and presence and feel what's there so it can be processed. All the emotions that are not processed just stay like frozen in time. They stay like a stagnant, paralyzed part of self that's just there, an experience that's unprocessed and that's just like waiting somewhere to maybe one day be addressed. And most times, if we don't do the conscious work, the conscious choice to go revisit these parts of self, we won't be able to reintegrate these parts, and we'll live our lives from a space of fragmentation and from a space of unprocessed experiences and wounds, and with the only parts of ourselves that we actually inhabit, with all these other parts being like frozen and fragmented and on the side. So the healing and awakening journey is about experiencing and feeling. That's when the spiritual bypassing enters as a coping mechanism, as a strategy to want to be healed, want to be whole without doing the work, without having to explore these parts of ourselves, without having to feel, without having to look at these parts of ourselves, without having to acknowledge and take responsibility for these parts of self. And so basically, within the spiritual bypassing strategy, people mimic the results of what it means to be healed, what it means to be more whole, more awakened, without connecting, without reconnecting to these parts of themselves. So they're still fragmented, and instead of recuperating these parts, they fragment themselves even more. They separate themselves even more. They don't want to feel the pain. They don't want to feel the sadness. They don't want to feel the anger. They don't want to feel the shame. They don't want to feel the guilt. They don't want to feel all that. And so they they repress these emotions even more and only allow the expression or actually imitation of joy, love, light, etc. There's a toucan like 2 meters away from me right there on the tree. So typically how this will look, whether it is in individuals or in communities or like in a healing or spiritual container, is that not only will these people not be comfortable with experiencing these emotions that are labeled as negative emotions, uncomfortable emotions, but they will also not feel comfortable with people around them experiencing and expressing these emotions. Why? Because as they're not feeling safe enough, or they don't have the tools to cope with these emotions within themselves, they also don't have the tools or ability to experience feeling these emotions by empathy with other people around them experiencing these emotions. They will feel uncomfortable. Also because they don't allow themselves to feel and experience these emotions, they won't feel comfortable with others allowing themselves to feel and express these emotions. So a typical example, but I have several according to the emotions. People who completely repress their anger. Anger, as all other emotions, is sacred, but that's another topic. They won't accept their anger, maybe because they were raised in a family or a system where anger wasn't allowed, or the result of feeling angry and expressing anger was getting punished or blamed or shamed or even like repressed in a violent way, or even rejected and abandoned by their caregivers. So the belief that comes with that is it is not okay to feel angry. Anger is a bad emotion. It's not okay. And if I feel angry, I'm a bad person. Or if I feel angry, I will be abandoned. Okay, so when someone else will experience anger or express their anger, they will get triggered and they will make everything possible to make that person stop expressing their anger and either censor them or make them feel shameful or guilty or repressing them or even being passive aggressive. There's many techniques, right? But they will not allow the other person to feel that emotion that they're not comfortable feeling. Another example, but this example I think is actually, it's cultural pathology, and I even think it's like it goes beyond cultures. It's like I don't know if it's only limited to the West or if it's like worldwide, but there's a lot of people who are not comfortable touching, experiencing their grief and expressing their grief. If I'm feeling sad, I'm not safe anymore, for example, right? Or, oh, if this person feels sad, it reminds me of my own sadness and I don't want to feel that, so it's not okay. And so you probably saw that 1,000 times in your lifetime, but like when someone starts crying, immediately there will be someone trying to make them stop crying, you know, like trying to comfort you, but in a way that's like repressing the expression of your sadness. And without being aware of it, that person is interrupting your grieving process and therefore your healing process. Because how do you transmute pain? Like the universe has given us this amazing gift that when we feel really sad, we get to cry and some of the pain gets to go away, right? It gives an immediate relief to cry. It is through crying that we're able to process the sadness. So if our environment doesn't allow us to cry, then we're not allowed and able to process that emotion. And it stays like frozen inside of us, repressed. And what's not expressed, so released, transformed outside, gets impressed inside the body. And it stays there unprocessed and stagnant. And it accumulates throughout life. Everything that we haven't processed, the emotions that we haven't processed, the experiences, they stay stored in our bodies. And with that comes, there's so many consequences from mental health issues, anxiety, depression, but also physical health issues, digestive issues, all kinds of health problems. So basically, to be able to tell the difference between a container that actually promotes healing and one that is more into spiritual bypassing, what I would look into is this a container that offers a safe space to express all of who I am, all of my emotions? Are all of my emotions welcome here? Will I find support in being all of who I am? And if the answer is yes, this is probably a potent healing container. If the answer is no, if you're in a space that only promotes joy, high vibe, light, love, beautiful, like glitter, fabulousness, etc., you are in a spiritual bypassing container that doesn't promote healing, that actually promotes the opposite. Not only are you not healing, but you are gaslighting yourself into believing that you are healing when you are actually dissociating even more from the wounds, from the shadows, from the pains that need to be experienced in order to be healed. And now I want to make a small parallel with the kinds of spaces where I've seen this kind of dichotomy, these examples of healing space versus spiritual bypassing space. I believe, and I have witnessed, that it applies to most healing and spiritual paths and communities, because I've seen it in many. But now I want to talk more specifically about plant medicine. Plant medicine is one of the most potent tools for healing and awakening. And that's why it is extremely important when you use that tool, when you decide to embark on that path, to make sure that the container is safe, is aligned, is serving truth, healing, and real inner work. Because I would say the more potent the tool, the more it can have like really beneficial or detrimental or even harmful outcomes according to how it is directed, how it is used, right? Because even if the medicine is potent, whatever kind of medicine, I'm thinking a lot right now about Tantra, because I've seen that a lot in Tantra as well. It's a real issue. So even if the medicine is potent, what will make the experience is how it is being used. And so the right medicine, the right tool in the wrong hands can be very damageable. That's why it's important to be very conscious of what we're doing, and also the environment and people with who we're sharing these kinds of experiences. So if the healing and awakening process is about diving into ourselves and going in these parts of our being that need our presence, that we have dissociated from, that need our loving presence, our awareness, and our ability to be there and feel in order to process, transform, release, heal, reintegrate. Obviously, the opposite of that is separation, dissociation, right? Not going there, not doing the shadow work, only wanting to connect with light. I really have this question of like, how can we think that healing is about only connecting to light? Whatever that means, right? And avoiding what's screaming for our attention and our love and our presence. So this is what the medicine does. When you are in a plant medicine ceremony and you drink medicine, the medicine will go into your body and your whole entire multidimensional being, and it will search. It will look for these places that have unprocessed experiences, traumas, emotions, or where there's like an infected wound. I'm talking not only about physical wounds, I'm talking about emotional and spiritual wounds that are there infected, that need our presence, that need our awareness, that need our ability to shift something within in order to heal and release. So the medicine does that, and it works on these parts of self, and it brings our awareness and our presence to these parts, and it helps us to reconnect with the experience. It allows us to feel what has not been fully felt, and through this feeling, transform and process our experience. And usually what will happen, but it's not automatic and it's not for everyone and every time, we will release in the form either of purge, like vomiting, or backhand purge, or crying, or yawning, or whatever form we have to releasing energy, right? So this is how the medicine works. If you are in an environment, a context, a ceremony, and that's what I've experienced also recently a lot, and I've been very, anything from questioning to like angry, is spaces where you drink the medicine. So you connect to the doctor, you connect to this higher awareness that's supposed to accompany you in this healing work of healing yourself with her help. And then you're in a container that just plays like very loud and happy and high vibe and like fast music with a lot of lyrics that are not indigenous. Let's just have this quick reminder that I'm talking about an indigenous medicine here, right? Her aim is to reconnect us to our deep nature, to nature and our deep nature. And traditionally, what happens in indigenous ceremonies is that the work will be guided by icarus, by songs, by medicine songs that will guide the work of the medicine, right? So there's this like understanding of the medicine, and you are already doing this work, and the songs, the music is supporting, enhancing, accompanying you on that journey, right? We're going together in the same direction. So if you find yourself in a ceremony where there's like high vibe, very happy, airy, positive, fast-paced music with a lot of lyrics, non-stop, with no pause, no space, only love and light, that don't allow any space for us to connect with ourselves and the medicine. And it's not a music that has this intelligence with the sounds, with the notes, right, of accompanying the medicine in the body, understanding like the frequency of the sounds, of the notes, and how this resonates in different parts of the body, right? If there's no understanding or connection to that, if there's like no connection with the animal part of you, right? If there's no connection with the lower chakras of the gut feeling, and it feels like an experience where everyone is dressed in white, singing like, it almost reminds me of like kirtan songs or mass, pure mass, because I'm actually talking about a specific tradition that maybe you will recognize, some of you who are in the medicine path, that is actually a Christian appropriation of the medicine. It almost looks like a mass with mass songs, and it's kind of like a only love and light vibe, only happiness, only white clothes, only positive vibes, only nice positive feelings. And there's no space for the work. There's no space for silence, for going slower, for going deeper within, for feeling, right? It feels like it's like cutting cutting your experience of your lower chakras. where honestly a lot of the healing work happens. And also where you will hear now and then people saying only joy, almost like the almost like a dictatorship of joy, right? Almost like an interdiction to feel anything else than joy. Then what I can tell you, and this is my opinion, and not everyone will agree, but what I can tell you is that I don't consider that like a healing space. I do not consider that as a healing space. I consider that it may be something else, another kind of ceremony, but calling that a healing space for me is spiritual bypassing. Because if there's no space to feel, if there's no space for density, for experiencing density, if there's no space for sadness, for anger, for shame, then what are we doing here? The healing process and the spiritual process is about transmuting these parts of self, not disconnecting and rejecting them. And I really wanted to make a video about this because I've been on the medicine path for a few years, and this is just one context and example of spiritual bypassing, but I've seen that in many other contexts. But I'm talking right now about this specific example. I've seen the huge difference between environments where medicine is used for healing and transformation, and environments where it's used to basically get high and only be on high vibes and just like being in a kind of love and light party where we disconnect from anything that doesn't feel positive, and we kind of like forcefully only connect with what's like light and love and white, you know. And I want to talk about that because I feel like a lot of us human beings are on a healing path, are on a path of like awakening, and this is a huge trap. This is a huge trap, and it's important for us not to be illusioned by this, because if we fall into that trap and into that illusion that this is what healing and spirituality is, there's a chance that we might get stuck in there and stop our evolution and stop our healing process. If you're really looking for healing, if you're really looking for going deeper with your spirituality, you have to be clear with how committed are you to experiencing all of who you are, of making space for all of who you are, embracing, accepting, making peace with all of who you are. Because this is what it's all about. Feeling, experiencing, being whole, not being fragmented and staying fragmented because it's more comfortable and like attaching to an illusion of superficial and kind of oppressive love and light. Also, I want to quickly mention toxic positivity because it's very connected to that. Joy exists because pain exists. Joy can only, like any emotion, can only exist in an authentic way. You cannot fake the experience, the inner experience of joy, right? And in order to feel joy in an authentic and real way, you have to be able to feel the sadness, the pain, the anger as well. If you cut yourself, if you dissociate from these other emotions, the pain, anger, etc., you won't be able to feel authentic joy either, because you won't be able to feel. If you want to be able to feel, you have to be able to feel all the emotions. And toxic positivity is very connected to spiritual bypassing. It's not allowing these other emotions. And for people not to be able to have this experience within themselves, so they censor these experiences of themselves, these expressions of themselves, these dimensions of their experience. And because they're disconnected and they don't allow these experiences, they do the same with others and don't allow others to feel and express these emotions that are labeled as negative. they impose like positivity at all costs. And this is pathological. It's the symptom of a dissociated being, and a being who's not able to embrace all of who he is and process his emotions. So just to conclude, healing for me is about being able to feel, and I know it's not always an easy experience. I think most of us haven't grown up with the tools to hold space for our emotions, and therefore my invitation is, if you are in a healing process and need support with that, maybe the next step is finding tools to cope with your emotions, finding tools to cope, experience, and also process your emotions. That's the first big step of your healing journey. So I hope this was helpful. I wish you all a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.